Welcome to Work Life by Design. I'm your host, Mel Marsden. As a passionate entrepreneur with a desire to create places where people and business thrive, I hope to inspire you to find your place at work and in life so you can live a life by design. You'll hear stories of transformation, exploring everything from organisational psychology to brand, and identifying opportunities in your workplace and your life to inspire your human potential. So, let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Work Life by Design. Now, today I want to start answering some of the questions that I have been getting asked quite regularly at the moment, and it's about what is happening in workplaces. Now, this is a question that clients are asking me, external parties are asking me. This is just one of those things that has become a bit of a hot topic because the way that each individual organisation is addressing whether they're in the office, are they working from home, are they working in a hybrid mode, is very different and very unique depending on the organisation. And as curious beings that we're all very interested in what everyone else is doing. So last week I was fortunate enough to join the Serenity Collective for their virtual fix. This is their online pre-event for their Thriving Workplace event, which is actually happening at the end of March. So it's for them the 30th of March to the 1st of April in Sydney. And this event is about how we can start to create more thriving workplaces. How can we start to ensure the well-being, the health and the safety, but also the progressiveness of our organisations to really be delivering on what our people need. And one of the questions that they were asking me is, what is going on in workplaces? Are we in? Are we out? What's happening? How are people addressing this? And it was just a really interesting and thought-provoking conversation. And it's one that I've been getting asked by many different organisations. So I wanted to do an episode on it for you guys today and just sort of delve in and take you behind the business blind, so to speak, of what's going on in different organisations, because it's really interesting to see how different organisations are approaching their workplaces and how they are supporting their teams and what they are doing in relation to supporting the workflow and the process of their business. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening, how they're doing this, what is business as usual for these different organisations. I'm even going to talk about what hybrid work is because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around that, similarly as there was around what activity-based working was a few years ago. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities that we've got. And if you're an organisation or you're in charge of your people and you're thinking about how you can start to implement this in your business, some of the things that you can start to think about to navigate that direction and that way forward. So just quickly, on the Thriving Workplaces event that's happening in Sydney with the Serenity Collective, I'm actually going to be running a 3-hour workshop for them down there on the 30th of March, which is taking you through the 5 pillars of my Workplace Dynamics Blueprint. So what this Workplace Dynamics Blueprint is and what we'll be doing in that 3-hour workshop is touching on each of those pillars. And I'll be showing you the tools that you can be using within your business to extract the data and the insights that's already existing there within your very walls, and how that data is then going to help shape your next steps as you prepare your organisation for what the future of work is going to look like. So this is my way of supporting you to empower you to be able to look at what's going on in your organisation, to be able to engage with your people effectively, and to start to map a way forward so that you can start to plan what your future work environment is going to look like. So if that sounds like something that would work for you, be sure to check out the Serenity Collective website. I'll pop a link for that in the show notes and you can come along and check it out, the Workplace Dynamics Blueprint there in that 3-hour workshop with me. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to sort of touch on what's going on. So different organisations are addressing this in different ways. And what I'm seeing is it's different across different states, it's different across different industries, it's different across the way that different organisations are structured internally. So there is no clear delineation. Not everyone's doing it the same. Everyone is approaching it quite differently. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how different organisations are going about this and what it's looking like for them. Now, to get started, I just want to define a little bit more clearly what hybrid work is in the way that I understand it. So, hybrid working is about being able to work in a location that supports the ability for me to do the job that I need to do in a place that may not actually be in the workplace. So, setting up a hybrid work environment is around having a physical workplace, somewhere I can go to that is owned by the organisation, and I can go there and I can work there. But I can also then work at home, I can work at the beach, I can work anywhere else as long as it's supporting me to be able to get my job done. Now, the way that many organisations are looking this is that we're starting to see, well, what work can be done at home. So typically the work that is being done at home is deep focused, concentrative work, process driven work, anything that doesn't require other people to be around. It doesn't need to be collaborative work. So it's very individual, very concentrative work is what we're typically seeing organisations direct their teams to do away from the office. What they are encouraging people to come into the office for is to socially connect with their teams, to brainstorm, to collaborate, to engage professionally in those social activities with the organisation, connect back into the organisation, which means that the type of environments that we're seeing in our workplaces are very different to what we've previously experienced. So previously we would have seen lots and lots and lots and lots of workstations because we're effectively providing a point for every person to be able to sit and to work, doing all the range of work that they need to do throughout the entire day. Whereas now, when we're coming into the workplace, we don't want people typically engaging in that deep, focused, concentrative work because we want them to be doing that in a much more conducive space, which is typically at home. Whereas when they're in the office, we want them to be communicating, collaborating, connecting, socialising, engaging with one another and engaging with the business. So that means that we need more spaces for meetings. We need places for people to catch up over a coffee. We want brainstorming spaces with lots of different whiteboards and things. So the way that we're actually working in the workplace is quite different to how we have previously done it. And just that balance of space is quite different. Now, that's not to say that we still don't need workstations and quiet rooms and all those other things in there, because we most certainly do. We need those spaces because we all know that throughout the course of the day, we're not in meetings. Most of us aren't in back-to-back meetings all day. There are going to be periods of time where we still need to sit down and we need to do an hour's work. We need to respond to some emails, or we need to go and have that Teams call or that Zoom call. So we do need spaces that are going to support those very deep individual activities as well. So it's about understanding what those relationships of those spaces are going to need to be. Now, the other caveat that I'm going to put on this as well is that not everyone has the best setup at home. We're not always going to have the ability to work from home productively. Perhaps we've got little kids, maybe we're in a shared household, maybe we live in a very small apartment and we don't have great Wi-Fi. There is a range of different reasons why people choose not to work from home, because maybe it's their personality preference. They don't like being so socially isolated. They would rather come in and sit in the workplace and work at a workstation all day as opposed to staying at home. So we need to consider all of those different people and how their different circumstances, their different work style preferences are actually sitting underneath all of this too, and make sure that we're catering to everybody, because typically workplaces have kind of been a bit of a one-stop shop for everybody. It's like one size fits all. Everyone gets a workstation, or everyone gets, allocated an office or a workstation depending on the hierarchy within the business. Whereas now we really need to be looking at, well, what do the individuals that work in our business actually need? How can we best support them to enable their highest level of productivity? Because that's ultimately what we need to be looking at as a business. So it's about kind of taking all of those things into consideration. So when we start to look at this across how different organisations are approaching it, what we are doing with those organisations is actually starting right back from the very beginning. We are helping them understand what's going on in their workplace, what kind of work people do, whether it's falling into that very individual deep concentrative work or whether it is that highly collaborative, creative style of work, understanding where their different people spend their time, what the different roles are within their organisation, and then looking at all of that and how it all comes together. So we're spending a lot of time actually gathering the data and digging deeper into their organisation and how they are working, but also starting to think about how they can work into the future. Because this is very much about being very future focused at the moment. We need to be thinking about, well, we're no longer trying to do what we used to do and just kind of do it in the space that we've got. We need to be thinking about what's going to happen in the next 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and how our workplaces are going to continue to evolve around that. Jumping in to let you know that the doors to the Live a Life by Design 6-week experience are opening again this month. This is my signature 6-week live delivered program taking you through the tools, the frameworks and the philosophies that I have lovingly curated over the last 10 years to enable you to gain the clarity you need to design a life you love with joy and purpose. And to kick off the launch week fun, I have 2 very special offers for you for free. I'm going to be hosting a free 5-day challenge to take you from chaos to calm. Now, I'm all for productivity and getting shit done, but so often it is at the expense of our well-being and our sanity. But I know firsthand that sometimes the hustle can overtake and that can leave us burnt out, in a tailspin and drowning in overwhelm from that mounting to-do list that is surrounding us at work and in life. And so designing a work life we love is something that I want for every person. One that is aligned with your personal ambitions, your goals and your aspirations for your life. And it's integrated with your career and your business. And sometimes, I get it, it's easier said than done. And sometimes the demands of work and life take over and we forget what we're actually aiming for and that chaos creeps in. So over 5 days, I'm going to be sharing with you ways that you can consciously take back the reins and get from chaos to calmness by reconnecting with the life that you want to live. So each day, I'm going to be sending you a quick short email taking you through the day's focus. Plus, I'll be diving deeper into each of the topics as I go live in our Facebook group to answer any questions and provide you with a few easy micro changes that you can make to regain your calm. Plus, by sharing your experiences of implementing the micro changes, you go into the draw to win one of 3 prizes, 2 of which are enrolment in the Live a Life by Design experience. So we kick off on Monday, the 21st of Feb at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So hit the link in the show notes to come and join us. I'll also be hosting a free masterclass on Wednesday, the 23rd of February at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, setting you up for success. This masterclass is for leaders who are ready to step it up, reignite their passion for life, and design a work life that lights them up. In this masterclass, I'm going to show you how aligning your purpose and your values to your business will not only ignite your passion, it will also attract your dream clients. I'm going to take you through a visioning process to help you establish the clarity that you need in your business to take inspired action. And I'm also going to be talking about the roadblock that is preventing you from stepping into your dream life and what you need to do to shift it. So this masterclass is for you if you are ready to level up in your life and in your work. If you feel like your business or your career is killing you from the inside out, if you're ready to create a work life that lights you up and makes you money, you're living and working on autopilot, or you are just ready to design a life that is yours. So if this one's piqued your interest, make sure you register at the link in the show notes. It's going to be a fun week and I cannot wait to welcome our new members into the program. I'm only going to be running the program twice this year. So no matter where you are in your life, if you're feeling burned out, lost, trapped, or if you've fallen out of love with the life that you thought you wanted, let's say goodbye to living your life on autopilot. Over 6 weeks, I will guide you through my framework for taking back the reins and designing a life that will bring you joy, clarity, and be filled with purpose. I would love you to come join us. So now, let's get back to the episode. And what we're seeing is that by starting these conversations, firstly at that leadership level, and actually engaging with the leaders of the business and starting to understand what their business objectives are and where they see the organisation heading, but then engaging with the general consensus of the organisation, the people, what we are starting to uncover is that they are starting to come up with better and better ideas around how they can work. And then this is where we start to get into workflow modelling. And this has been really exciting because this is so much more hands-on and getting into understanding how the actual flow of work happens within an organisation. So what we're doing is we're starting to look at what is the actual work that those particular teams are doing. Which teams need to be communicating and collaborating with other teams? If we start to then map out who's coming into the office on what day, we can then start to see how this fluidity of travel, of movement of people within the space is changing across the week. Because we might find that team A and B need to be in on a Monday because this is how they need to get their week set up, whereas team C doesn't need to come in until a Wednesday, and then team E doesn't come in until Friday. It's mapping this out and seeing how our peak loads start to transition. And what this is doing is it's starting to help us manage our capacity planning. Now, what I'm also seeing is a lot of the organisations that we are working with right now are either coming to end of lease expiries or they're going through massive growth phases. And with those massive growth phases, we have seen occupancy levels in organisations drop dramatically because people are still working from home. They're choosing to come in at different points and times during the week, but we're still predominantly opting to work from home where the organisations allow it. And again, I'll come back to this in a minute because this is very industry specific. When we start to look at how this is working, what we're starting to identify is that rather than going and leasing more space and taking on more rental overheads, organisations are looking at how they can use the space that they have much more effectively and much more productively without increasing that operational overhead of renting more space. So what we're starting to do is help them map what this looks like so that we can maximise their occupancy across the week without them needing to go and lease additional space. So this relies on a few things though. We have to start really embracing a desk sharing model. We have to look at how that then transitions across the organisation. And then that comes with its own set of challenges because we have to do change transformation and mindset management and understanding the implications of how different people associate their sense of identity with their sense of ownership over different spaces. Now, I mentioned that this is almost quite industry specific as well. And the reason I say this is because a lot of the organisations that we are working with are being quite progressive in how they are approaching this. They are adopting very much that hybrid work model where they are being quite flexible, they're quite forward thinking around how they are supporting their people and the type of work that they're doing and the way that they are supporting the workplace around them. What I'm noticing in those particular industries is they are very much technology focused, they're entertainment focused, they're organisations that are very invested in the well-being and the productivity of their people in a balanced way. Where I'm seeing this not shift as much and not move in this direction, and organisations that are tending to stick back into very much I come to work every day and I sit at my desk every day, is still very much in that legal space, in that accounting space, in that financial investment and insurance space. So that's very much still, I kind of liken it to the very traditional styles of organisations opposed to the technology driven and the newer progressive types of organisations. So that's the shift that we're seeing. I'm also seeing this shift across borders though as well. So I found that predominantly within Queensland, because that's where we do majority of our work, and because of the nature of how we've been exposed to different lockdown periods over the course of the last 2 years, there hasn't been that pressure for us to shift our thinking around the way that we work because our lockdown periods have been quite short. We've had the ability to come back in and get back into our workplaces. We've been living in our little bubble. By comparison, when you start to look at what's been happening in Sydney and Melbourne, they've had to deal with running their businesses and running their organisations through these very extended periods of lockdown. And now that their organisations have opened up, people are a little bit more tentative to come back into the workplace, or they are chomping at the bit and they can't get in there fast enough. So they've got a bit of an adjustment period that's going to be happening here, where people are really keen to get back into the workplace, but how long is that going to last for, and what does the reality look like over a longer period of time? Now, with organisations that are working across multiple states, what we're seeing is that as Victoria is sort of relocating back into the workplace and they are starting to find their feet, we're starting to see Queensland follow suit. So previously, where they may have been an organisation that was still expecting people to come back into the workplace 5 days a week, we're now starting to see more hybrid working arrangements coming into play. As the growth of their people is outnumbering the amount of desks that they actually have in their workplace to accommodate them, they're needing to look at these alternative ways of working, and they're seeing this happen in their other offices in their other states. And so now they're starting to adopt similar working styles there as well. So this period of adjustment that I'm seeing that's happening as organisations sort of shift and mould, and how that all starts to fall together. But we're also seeing this in terms of implementing desk sharing models in different organisations, and how those organisations then are dealing with that through a change management solution, because they don't have the financial capital to be able to do any significant physical reconfigurations of their workplaces. And I think this is the really important piece that we need to be understanding at the moment, is that to adopt these new ways of working and to support our people in the way that they work and how they're engaging with our workplaces, we don't need to be going and doing a full-blown refit, total reconstruction of our workplaces. We can be working with what we have. It is more challenging because it's very difficult to change mindsets around things when we don't have any other triggers. So typically, the construction of a new office and the relocation of a new office is a trigger. It helps us understand that, well, there's a new space, we work differently in this space. But imagine if you've been coming into your office for the last 5 years and you've sat only at your desk, and now I'm telling you you can't sit there anymore and you need to move around, and your stuff's no longer in your drawer, and you can't keep your little trinkets and animals and things on your desk. It's going to have a significant mental shift for people to get over that hurdle of understanding that, but it is possible. It just needs to be some trade-offs, and there needs to be a lot of education and a lot of engagement to get there. So some of the things that I am seeing, and this kind of leads on from that, is some of the biggest challenges that organisations are going to be facing as they're navigating through this. And one of the number one things that I'm still getting a lot of pushback on is this concept of hot desking. Hot desking has been this horrible term that has been given such a bad rap over the years, and what we've started to try and reframe it as is desk sharing at the moment, because hot desking has these ugly connotations, and we're not asking people to hot desk because we want them to be able to feel comfortable in the workplace that they're coming into. But they've got this association with hot desking is that everyone's going to be fighting for a desk, or it's not clean, or there's health implications that go with it. And we want to try and alleviate as much of that concern as we possibly can. So reframing this as being around desk sharing enables us to look at it differently, but we've also then got to communicate why are we going down this path. And as I said, with organisations going through mass amounts of growth, rather than taking on additional floor area and rental, when we're not using the space that we already have to its full occupancy because people are working from home, we need to be bringing people on that journey and helping them understand what the implications of that are. And I mentioned about that health implication and people being concerned about, sharing a desk with somebody else. It's around, well, what are we doing as sanitation precautions? Is it a desk for a day? Do we have regular cleaners coming through? Are we providing sanitation wipes? Is someone coming through every night and cleaning? So how do we make sure that people feel physically safe within the work environment, and that their sanitation processes are in place, and that they have some sense of personal control over that, but that the organisation is also invested in making sure that that health and wellbeing of their people is okay as well. The other part of that also comes down to ownership. And I mentioned that before around people have a sense of identity around the place that they sit and they work every day. They know who's sitting next to them. They have their stuff in their drawer. They know where all their pens are. They have this process of association with their workplace that is built up over time. So it's about engaging with those teams to then understand what are other ways that we can create that sense of identity? Perhaps it's at a team level. Are we doing it on a floor level? How are we actually shifting that sense of identity to being something that's just about me to something that is about we? And so this is where that change transformation piece comes in as well. And there's a huge education process that has to come with any of these types of shifts in working environment, because we're asking people to do something very, very different to what they've done in the past. And so it's about engaging with them, understanding their concerns, and then co-creating those solutions together as to how they can actually resolve them and still enjoy coming to work each and every day. The opportunities are what really outweigh some of these challenges, because with these opportunities, what we're getting is the ability for us to connect better, the ability for us to collaborate more effectively. It gives us the ability to repurpose space in a way that actually supports the way that we need to work. And that's a really, really important thing, because for a long time, our organisations have just been building desks for people's bottoms to sit on Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Whereas now we're actually starting to really creatively think about, how are we using the space? What is the purpose of me coming into this work environment? How is this going to enhance my experience of work? How is it going to enhance my performance, my productivity, my idea creation? How is it enhancing the business? And when we start to really answer that question, that's when the whole world opens up around what our workplace can do and how it is going to enable not just your people, but the performance of your business. And so they're the things that I really want to encourage people to start thinking about. If this is something that you are starting to think about as an organisation and you're not really sure where to start, some of the things that I want you to start considering are around, how are you going to educate and empower your new work practices? So thinking about who needs to be in, when they need to be in, why they need to be in, and then engaging with them and having that conversation together. So it might be that marketing comes in 2 days a week, whereas accounts want to be in there 5 days a week. Whatever that looks like, engage people in that process and then start to map that out and go, okay, well, if this is what our workflow modelling looks like across the week, we know that on Wednesdays, that's our peak day and every single desk in this place is going to be full. How are we going to manage that? Do we need to be considering desk booking systems? Do we need to be looking at our sanitation and health policies? How are we going to manage that to ensure that we are giving everyone the best experience of work? And how are we going to communicate that and ensure that that continues to work? As I said earlier, really starting to talk about what is the purpose of your workplace. What do we do at work versus what do we do at home? And to give you an example of this, when we started going through a workshop with one of our clients, we started sort of mapping out how the workplace could work, and we had these really great collaboration spaces, and someone within the workshop said, hey, I can't sit there because that collaboration space is just going to distract me. I'm going to end up with my headphones all day. And so when we dug into that conversation, what we understood was that the type of work that that individual within that team was going to need to be doing was not conducive to being in a collaborative space. And the result of that conversation meant that they actually now work from home 4 days a week and they only come in 1 day a week. And on that 1 day a week, that's when they're doing all of their interaction with the other teams, they're interacting with their own team, they're mapping out their week, they're setting up the deliverables. It completely changed their whole workflow practice to suit the type and style of work that they needed to do. Now, that was that particular team. Whereas conversely, we've got another team who, in marketing, they love to get involved. They want to be brainstorming. They want to be creative. They want to be loud. They want to be in 3 days a week and they want as many brainstorming spaces and collaboration spaces as they can get their hands on. And 2 days a week, they're at home implementing. So it's a very different shift. So you've got to understand the nuances of the different teams and the different roles and the tasks and activities that they're all doing in their workplaces, because they all shift and change. And when you can understand that, that's when you can start to then support those workflow practices. And they're not going to be consistent across the organisation because the roles in your organisation are inconsistent. Another thing I really want you to consider is that if we are asking people to spend a lot of time working from home, that we invest in making sure that their work from home setup is suitable. So whether that's giving them checklists and guidelines around how they should be working from home, supporting them with online programs, which I can help you with. I'll drop a note for that one in the show notes as well, in terms of how they can set themselves up to work productively and effectively from home. Some of the conversations we've been having with clients is that they get on Teams Zoom calls and, Joe's leaning against the couch and balancing his laptop on his knee, and that he's just been sitting there for the last 3 hours working on the floor in his living room. We're going to end up with people with back injuries and neck problems and shoulder complaints and all other sorts of physical health issues because of how they're working at home. So helping your team understand what is an effective work from home setup, how they can be using their house appropriately. And some organisations are even allocating funds that would have been spent on, fit out upgrades and things in the physical workplace to giving allowances to their team so that they can get a decent chair at home, or they can get a monitor arm and they can set themselves up appropriately. So just have a think about how you can be supporting your people and actually working from home more effectively. The other thing is really around that changing mindsets and behaviours, because a lot of these things are very ingrained for people. If you've been in the workforce for 20, 30, 40 years, you are accustomed to working in a particular way. And all of a sudden, we're taking all of that away and we're asking people to work in a way that is uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar. We need to be able to take them on this journey and support them through that. And that's about understanding, where are they most stuck? Where are they most attached to the way that they work right now? And how can together we redefine what work looks like for them and help them understand that transition and why it's important? Because a lot of the time our space has been designed around us as individuals. We've created it that way. The space has not been specifically designed for, Joe and Sally and Brenda. It has been designed generically, but we have taken ownership of it, and now we're undoing that. So we need to be able to help them through that and understand, what are the types of behaviours that we expect from different spaces. Where do I go to do my quiet work? Where do I go to do my really loud brainstorming? Where do I go to just, knock out a couple of emails? Understanding how different spaces are to be used and engaged with, that's what we want to be helping people do at the moment, because that is very foreign to most people. And that is a big part of what we do at Community, is actually helping support people understand how to work in a new work environment. So it's not just about building new desks and painting the walls with pretty colours and you're making it look gorgeous. That's a big part of it. But it's about helping people actually understand how they can engage with that space and how it helps them perform. And finally, the thing that I really want you to thinking about is that workflow planning, that workflow design. Who is in when? How are we managing that? Who needs to be talking to who? There's a few ways that you can start to do that, and it's about understanding the communication flow and the information flow in your organisation. What does that look like? But it's also about understanding those tasks and activities as to who needs to be in, what kind of work are they doing, where are they doing it, who do they need to be with when they do it, and really starting to answer some of those questions for yourself. So I hope that's starting to give you a bit of an idea of what's going on in different organisations. As you can tell, it is very varied because every organisation is very different. Even, within industries, organisations are very different because of the different departments they have and the teams and the structures and the way that they communicate and the values and the behaviours. And this is all about understanding what is going to work for your organisation. So as I said, I'm hosting that 3-hour workshop at the Thriving Workplaces Conference. I'll be taking you through the Workplace Dynamics Blueprint and really getting you to help understand how to unpack the information that's already in your organisation so that you can start to plan this and work forward in your own organisation. I'll drop a bunch of other links into the show notes as well for you to have a look at, because there is a free 5-day challenge on my website that you can jump in and you can complete. And over 5 days, it will help you start to gather some of this information that you might need. As I said, you can come along to the workshop at the Thriving Workplaces event, or you might be interested in joining the Workplace Dynamics Blueprint program. So that's, again, something that I will take you through to show you how your workplace can support the performance of your business, can support the performance of your people, and begin to set yourself up for the future by gathering all that data and actually looking at what's inside your organisation and empowering you to be able to make that change from the inside out, because it doesn't always require a complete and utter construction overhaul. it might be just some shifts in values and behaviours around how people engage with the different spaces. So there's a lot of different options there, but I hope that's starting to give you a bit of an idea how different organisations are starting to approach their workplaces. As always, thank you again so much for joining me today. I hope that has helped, giving you a few ideas on which way you can go. Again, if you do have any questions or want some more advice on what you can do within your workplace, please reach out. More than happy to jump on a call with you and talk that through. But until next week, have a gorgeous day, and I look forward to chatting to you again next week. Thank you for joining me for Work Life by Design. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to rate, review, or subscribe, or all three, in iTunes and share it with your friends so we can continue to build this community. I would love to hear from you, so if you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, you can connect with me on Instagram at Melma or send me an email at melissa@melissamarsden.com.au. I hope this episode has given you a few sparks of inspiration so that you can design a work life you love.